Very good morning, Maswala Mahle. Thank you for waking up with us. There is the 10th of April 2024. Seyishayile insimbi yesithupha lokushokwana kuqala kohlelo lwevulo lomhla ekseni. My name is Longelele Makakula. Nemlingane wami uMnguni Shumnakbili. How are you this morning?
I'm very well, Lulu. The 6th of April. It's the 10th of April. It's Wednesday. It's the biggest thing that's exciting Livela Angwane right now. It's going to be the first story list I will see right in Zabe. And I was watching the news last night and I was looking at all the developments that are currently happening leading up towards His Majesty the King's birthday. Just seeing the developments lendega ukuthi dinot vele settingathi setima ngemumo tonke live lonke la Angwane lithakasele logo limele logo ngalabovu and utawukhumbula ke lungelela ukuthi iyelani emankayane na ungakhumbula ukuthi kwaba nelijaha lapha esibayeni lelasho ukuthi awu sicela manje silo semhlaba sinyathele nje emankayane batawuthola tibusiso what's nacela abantu nje bakuthatha ngathi hawo uyacela nje awuphela khona lapho
ingwenyama yavele yathi ya lonyaka iphathi idaba samankayane
iyasithanda sive sawo bese kukhuluma lokho sikubona lapha kungwenyama cup sibona nasilo semhlaba sithatha Thombe nalama winners nasatha hamba sabuya shuthe as a moment again lapho khona yakhuluma nalabathebula Thombe kutheni ni kahle yini lapho niyakhona kushutha kahle baveda lo ukuthi asikhoni kahle ngoba ngathi basikreme ngalana song ngathi ke cha bavumele baye nangale bakhona ukuthi bashutha. It gets to show how much he loves his people, he loves the nation. So personally it gets me excited and it makes me smile.
Yeah, and of course ibonile indvuna nayo sifisa itasekhaya Princess Lindiwe iyebuka ukuthi amalungiselelo ahamba kanjani and of course kamba kahle konke. She also met with traditional leaders itolo kona siqinisekisa ukuthi umsebenzi wengwenyama noma King's birthday uhamba kahle on the 19th of April. Kepha ke we will have the minister noma ke litiko kuto sichazela kabantu ngawo amalungiselelo this week kuva ukuthi vele umsebenzi solungele kanganani. Lamuhla kepha we will have labasuka St. Michael's High School. Lesikole ke itolo hosted a career expo for high school learners labasesifundeni isakamanzini. Career fairs are helpful because they offer learners a chance to touch base with dozens of potential employers. Bafundisiwe ke itolo ukuthi ngutiphi inhlobo temisebenzi letikhona kanye netifundvo labangatifundzela emanyuvesi. Labanye balabafundzi nje lesikhulumisene nabo bashito ukuthi this fair was necessary njengoba labanye babo bafundza etikolweni tsemakhaya ngako ke kude emathuba la kanjena. Sabe sikhulumisana na Raphael Masuku lo head of department lohlangothi local life skills education khona at St. Michael's. Will be joining us at 7:30.
Umkhuba lomuhle lona lungelele and ngiyabona lokuthi kungathi soyatayeleka uyanza cishe ngeminyaka siyabona ukuthi towards the end of term bafundzi particularly those labaka form 5 babaniketa lamathuba ukuthi bayobuka lo ukuthi bangatilungiselela ini deep ifundo lokufuna ba-strengthenisha ukuthi batawulungela kungena esikoleni. I remember during my time we never afforded this opportunity and yet it is such a great opportunity. Ngiyabona nje ukuthi I would have made that decision to study what I studied earlier on and focused maybe on these subjects, but it happened. But we're just happy with nyalo say umkhuba lomuhle losatayeleke. Lenye indzaba lesitayikhulumisa namuhla indzaba lebuka demand, financing strategy and roadmap for priority water related climate technologies. Kusesenjene kuquka kwesimo selitulu lokukhungethe umhlaba wonke. Lenye nje lihlangothi oluthinta kakhulu luhlangothi lwemande kutheni lona litawu adapta kanjani kusaguquka simo selitulu. Siyathi yothi kuguquka kwesimo selitulu sekubake ukuthi imvula tingabibikho kahle bo water harvesting nanabo sekufuna ukuthi babe smart. Therefore, it has compelled water stakeholders even la Angwane ekuthenini bahlangane kanye babukusane ekuthenini ngutiphi indlela letihlakaniphile labangadenda. What are the proposed strategies that they came up with? Itolo mabahlangene lapha Hilton Garden Inn, about 30 new technologies labathi banawo as proposed ideas that they want to work on. Basa lwana ke kuguquka kwesimo selitulu. Ngiyafuna ke naloko kuva ukuthi what do we mean really by strengthening institutional and technical capacity on gender responsive climate finance for Eswatini, who are the implementing partners kulo msebenzi lona, and a total of 30 water-related climate technologies were prioritized through a stakeholder-led consultative process. We want to outline all of those, and with the priority technologies identified, has a financing strategy and roadmap to implement this strategy been developed to ensure the financing and ultimately a wide-scale adoption, or rather uptake, of these technologies. We'll speak to Cindy Mtimkulu. She's the Chief Executive Officer kulo msebenzi ke bebawenda itolo stava kabanti ke ngalo msebenzi lona wenza. It's going to be now at 6:30 nakugaba nsimbi yesithupha. Ngesikhathi ke sibuke ehloko lethamba embili ngokwenzakele.
All right, let's tell us about times of Eswatini buleti hamba imbili this Wednesday. Your leading stories: SA Electoral Court rules Zuma wins appeal, can contest elections. This was when former South African President Jacob Zuma was addressing supporters of Umkhonto weSizwe party outside the High Court in Durban yesterday. Kulenyele hamba imbili Maswati truck drivers in SA told they should resign or else. Locals have been given an ultimatum to resign this month as threats of violence resurface. Some truck drivers say they prefer to risk their lives as unemployment rate is high in Eswatini. Read more on page 2. In other news, aka murder suspects oppose extradition. And Guletinye Tamba Mbilo on stories of businessman estates shocker: 5 wives, 37 children, and 1 beneficiary. Gulenye murdered businessman accused of fraud and forgery.
As guys, temidlalo times of Eswatini making the leading story. The Inzaba Letsinza coach Westlango Semnikati Dominic Gunene, who is set to know his fate today as the GAFA is in the spotlight. It's D-Day for him indeed. EFA is set to decide out of contract technical bench's fate today. It's going to be an interesting development, seeing if he stays or Sihlang will be led by another coach. We will learn today. And another one, 90 goals were scored in Ingonyama Cup. It rained more goals in the latest edition of the Ingonyama Cup, which is sponsored by Singapetelo Motor Vehicle Accidents Fund. In fact, 6 more goals were scored as compared to the last edition, which shows, the wheel of improvement that this tournament has been on. Sundowns is unstoppable as they were able to be victorious against Cape Town Spurs. Cristiano Ronaldo, CR7, sees red for elbowing opponent.
All right, let's move on to the Eswatini Observer. Your leading headlines: aka murder suspects oppose extradition. In other news, minister pleads do not overcharge government. Minister says they will not tolerate any criminal activities. Princess Lindiwe also warns against misuse of government property. Kanti kuletibuya letinye tindzaba: scammers targeting teachers. Kulenye Rodolph Mazia in 6 million Malangeni farm dispute with son and Liswati has been arrested for double murder in SA.
Sibuka temidlalo kuEswatini Observer lomuhla kungolesithathu ekuseni. Indzaba lehamba embili. Ernest out of contract. This coach has won 3 trophies for Green Mamba. Other teams ready to pounce on Mavuso, yet to renew his contract. Will he renew his contract or will he not? Chances are he will. That is my personal prediction, but we shall see how that will pan out. Psychological counseling for Birds players. Capital City Giants and Babane Swallows have huffed and puffed without success after losing 3 cup finals this season, and the players will undergo psychological counseling. Buffs versus Green Mamba this weekend. It's going to be a thriller of a match. It will be an exciting security forces derby when Green Mamba face off with Young Buffaloes in the MTN Premier League, making its return this weekend.
All right, on our newspaper headlines this morning. It's 9 minutes after 6. Let's take a break. Spend 18 Zabata Eswatini.
Kude lesinye isikhathi ngaphandle kwalesi.
Aba research bafunze.
Being risky it means ukuthi nalokuwa kwayo kulula.
Nathi kufuna sente ukukhicita lokusemndeni.
Ujala masada amahle kunathi lesa.
Sabatandi ukuthi njengalokhu
Sifile sive sikhulume.
Asimze sinimukele ehleleni kusile breakfast show na didinza abathe swati tfundwa ngilungelele makagula. Imvana itasekhaya umfana Nkosi Lindiwe ithi hamba kahle kakhulu amalungiselelo ekugubha iminyaka le-15 nesithupha ingwenyama yamaswati iyadalwa. Imvana ibekhuluma imankayana ngesikhathi yohlola ukuthi ahamba kanjani amalungiselelo alomsebenzi.
Kusele malanga la ngephansi kwalalishumi ukuthi sifunza sakamanzini lidolobha laseMankayane libambe umsebenzi lomkhulu eveni yokutalwa kwesilo semhlaba ingwenyama inkosi imswati wesithathu mhla 17 kulesetulu. Induna yetasekhaya umthane Nkosi Lindiwe iqhamukile lo mhla la eMankayane yabamba umhlangano nabo bonke labathinzekako emalungiselelweni alomsebenzi. Induna ke ibese seyivakashela lapha egroundini la kutawubanjwa khona lo msebenzi lomkhulu walo live. Azike ifike yakhonjiswa ukuthi yini lokwentiwako emalungiselelo sekakusiphi isigaba yini insayale tikhona nalapho ke libandla lidzinga ukuthi libanjiswe khona ukuthi lo msebenzi ube impumelelo. Induna ke ithi iyathokoza kubika eMaswatini ukuthi konke kusahamba kahle emalungiselelo asachubeka ngendlela lefanele ukuthi ke lo msebenzi ube khona eveni.
Hayi malungiselelo ahamba kahle kakhulu njengoba ubona nje lapha emva kwami kuyaphithitela. Siphuma emhlanganweni nje nanyalo vele sesivele simenge mimo sesititshele ukuthi evikini lelitako umsebenzi wenkosi uyachubeka. Sijabuliswa nje ukuthi sive seMankayane naso sitawujabula. Sijabule nelive lonke la kaNgwane kungasiye eMankayane efana ngoba phela siyathi ukuthi lo msebenzi lona ngolohlanganisa live. Lo msebenzi lona ngiyolo wenda ukuthi live libe ne-identity. Abantu batatu ukuthi bangemaswati baphindze batigcaphela ngalobuswati babo. Ngoko lo msebenzi lona siva sijabula ngawo nasiva ukuthi naku sokhona. Ngaphandle kwalokuthi nje live latalelwa lokuhle kwalo ngalo suku lolu. Ngoba nako kukhulu kufanele sikucelebrate sikubonge ngoba into lenkulu lokho ngonyama ivex emaswati ayayithanza ayayijabulela ayayisupporta ngilapho sitawutshengisa khona ngalo lesihlanu ukuthi sivele simenayo. So thina ke vele sesiyalungisa njengoba sihlangene nje sichama inhlangothi singetinhlangothi tahulumende. Ngilo naloyo make sure ukuthi bangakwakhe akuphumelele kuze kulo msebenzi wenkosi utophumelele ube mhle. Thina vele sijabulile si excited nabo netikhulu nabenkosi bakamanzini benginabo itolo nabo batshengisa injabulo ukuthi bawugade ngemehlo amabili lo msebenzi wengwenyama ukuthi uchubeke eMankayane. Thina sesibhekele okuhle nje kodvana siyathandaza nganhlanye ukuthi nje kubebede lokuphathamisako konke kuhambe kahle.
Induna ithi ayikabheki ukuthi labo labalungiselela lo msebenzi nakukhona lebatakuthenga bakuthenge bagabuzele bangahloniphi imithetho lekhona yekuthenga impahla usebenzisa imali yahulumende. Ithi ke yathokoza nekuthi umsebenzi lo njengalona uyakhona ukufaka isandla ekufukuleni umnotho kusitakale labo labatabe bakhwale bakuqoshaqoshako ngalelo suku.
Utabe kubulanga lekujabula la. Asite nenjabulo yethu siyiphethe sitokhela kulomunye ngalomunye kepha sithi sijabulile sibe sihlonipha ngoba Amaswati adwa ngehlonipha nalapho sihlangane khona singemaswati. Asihloniphane nithine, sihloniphe labaphethe, labadala basitshengisa ukuthi sibheka ngakuphi. Umfu alalele lokho latshengiswa kona, alandzele leyo instruction laniketwa yona ukuthi ubheka ngala. Sibheke nje injabulo yodvwana ne-atmosphere yodvwana, lenhle yodvwana. Sihloniphane ke bama bekunene njengoba sithume ngako.
Lidolobha laseMangayane ke akusiko okwekuqala libamba umsebenzi lofana nalona. Naloko lidolobha linelithemba lelikhulu ukuthi lo msebenzi nasewendlulile lona angeke lifanane nasekuqaleni. Etizabente Eswatini TV ngilingithini Gule. Ngisemangayane.
Itiko letasekhaya lithi itikolwa atiyekele kuthathisa abantwana ama-passports ngenhloso yokuthola inombolo lesichaza buve. Ngekusho komxhumanisi welitiko letasekhaya Mlandvo Dlamini, bukwana ukuphuma nekungena eveni angeke ayithathe indzawo esichaza buve njengoba lokhu lokubili kusebenta ngetindlela letehlukile.
Silitiko letasekhaya kulamalanga sihlaselwe ngibo bantwana ikakhulu bantwana besikole ikakhulu labo labaneminyaka lengaphansi kwa 16 years labeta bato applyela wona ma travel documents. Lesithite ke nasikubuka silitiko sizama kulandzelela ukuthi angabe labantwana bayapi noma nabo sibabuta sithola ukuthi bantwana abayindzawo kanti phela lena document lena yekuphuma nekungena eveni angeke uyisebenzise as i-substitute yesichaza buve. So sifuna ukucela nje kibo bothishela nhloko kanye nabo laba organizer lawo ma events ukuthi fane basibambise ekutheni babuke letinye indlela letingaba i-source of identity rather than lama passport. Kumbula phela msakati ukuthi i-passport it's a government document that is highly subsidized. Hulumende ufaka imali eningi kuze akhone ukukhicita i-passport and ifike kilo liswati ngemali le affordable. So kungako silitiko sisonzela esiveni ikakhulu nabo labo laba organizer lawo ma events ukuthi basibambise ekutheni babuke lenye indlela lengaba i-identification rather than le passport. Akusiko ke labantwana kuphela, lokunye lesikutholile ukuthi kukhona nebantu labadzala kakhulu la kulabo mobile money lothola ukuthi nakhona basebenzisa labo passport as a substitute ye-ID. Nakhona sicela ukukhuta bongosi i-ID inema features ayo, i-passport inema features ayo, ma security features.
Itiko letasekhaya lithandza kwetfula isiveni incwajana leyatiwa ngatasekhaya. Incwajana yetfulwe indvuna yelitiko letasekhaya umhlonishwa umfana Nkosi Lindiwe enhlokovisi yalo litiko. Inhloso yayo kuba ngumfombo welwati ukuthi sive sati ngemisebenzi yelitiko, ukuthi sive siconze lokudzingekako nawe itiko letasekhaya nelusito ngekwehlukana lolutfolakala itiko letasekhaya. Imfana letasekhaya umhlonishwa umfana Nkosi Lindiwe ithi le ncwajana itabokhicitwa kabili ngeminyaka lekintfo lebatawucinisekisa ukuthi iyenteka. Mabhalane lomkhulu etiko letasekhaya Nhlanhla Nxumalo ugcizelele ngebumcoka bekuthi le ncwajana ifinyelele kubafundzi labanengi. Uthe itawutfolakala etinkundleni ivelonke. Lokhulumela litiko letasekhaya Mlandvo Dlamini ucinisekisile ukuthi le ncwajana itawufinyelela kuwonke na kuwebsite yahulumende nasemahekeni elive. Uthi isicephu sekucala sale ncwajana sikhomba umsebenzi welitiko kusuka ngenyanga yaBhembidwane kuya enyangeni yeLweti ngeminyaka wa 2023. Itawucinisa kusebentela ibaleni kwelitiko nekucinisa tekuchumana. Lo mbiko uchamuka kumabhalane lomkhulu etiko letasekhaya Nhlanhla Nxumalo. Basolwa ecaleni lekudubula babulala umhlabeli wetingoma te-hip hop Kenan Forbes lowatiwa nga-AKA kanye nemngani wakhe Tebelo Tibbs Motswane bayasiphikisa sicelo sekuthi bayiswe eveni leNingizimu Afrika kuyobhekana nalamacala lababhekene nawo. Lokhu kuvele ngesikhathi labasolwa bavele enkantolo lapho bekade kubheke ukuthi kuchubeke nekutekwa kwalesicelo selive laseNingizimu Afrika sekuthi labasolwa bendluliselwe kulela live.
Labasolwa kuleli cala bayoboshwa kuleli enkwalini ezone 4 kuMahalala nguSiyabonga Gezani Ndimande kanye naMelusi Dave Ndimande belive laseNingizimu Afrika. Lingakachubeki nekuteka leli cala ngalesibili ekseni bameli balabasolwa lokufaka ekhathi Sivesonke Ngwenya kanye ne-advocate Nduduzi Mabila. Phambisana lomeli umbuso kuleli cala amacebo encumalo bacele ukubona Principal Magistrate David Khumalo emahhovisini akhe. Lithinte nalibuye enkantolo lomelelo umbuso lovele ehhovisini lebashushisi kuleli macebo encumalo uvetele inkantolo ukuthi baselihlangene emahhovisini amanje kuvunyelwene ukuthi leli cala lichutshelwe embili.
I consent to the chief. May the matter be postponed to the 14th of May, for a call. This is for a call, Lordship. This is because, Lordship, the parties have agreed that since the respondents have requested to file a request for further particulars, Lordship, the tendency for filing of papers, Lordship, is that they filed their substantive application, Lordship, on the 24th of April 2024. And we will file our reply on the 10th of May 2024, and the matter comes back to court for a call, Lordship.
Ummeli labasolwa Sivesonke Ngwenya uthi sebambhalele umbuso kumatisa ukuthi sebahambisana lesicelo sokuthi bayobhekana namacala evenda seNingizimu Afrika. Uthi kulesicelo lesikhona kwamanje basafuna leminye imininingwane ngaso.
Our initial intention is to oppose the initial application for extradition, and we have since prepared our notice of intention to oppose same, my lord, which has since been served to my counterparts, which is the offices of the Director of Public Prosecutions. Maybe before his lordship proceeds to read what has been discussed prior, my lord, may we humbly request to file from the bar our notice of intention to oppose for purposes of it being placed on record, my lord.
Abasolwa lababili labakuleli lababoshelwe leli cala lekubulala Kinen Forbes akanye naTebelo Tibbs Motseyane bakunye nebasolwa lababoshwe eveni laseNingizimu Afrika labasihlanu nabo lababekwe emacala lathi akacisha afane nalawo lababeke wona lamasolwa labakuleli etindzabeni kubika Fortune Dlangamandla unaThemba Shabangu sisenkantolo kaMantshi kaManzini.
Lamanye emacala ekuniketelana ngebasolwa labende ebucala eveni laseNingizimu Afrika lokumele bayobhekana nawo eNingizimu Afrika lavelile ngulelo lamfane Nkosi Magagula kanye nankosi yethu uMakhunga. Lesicelo sekuthi bayobhekana nalamacala abo lahlukene lafaka ekhathi kubulala bewakathi avele embikwe eMantshi lomkhulu David Khumalo lokuniketana ngebasolwa labende ebucala emkhathini kwakuleli kanye nelive laseNingizimu Afrika kwendika ngaphansi kwemthetho wanga-1968 Extradition Act. Umsolwa Magagula ufunelwa licala lekubulala kwetama kubulala kanye nekwehlulekisa kusebenta komthetho defeating the ends of justice. Lamacala kuthiwa wawenda eCuban Lodge kaNyamazane. Makhunga yena ufunelwa emacala lamabili ekubulala labasolwa lasolwa ngekuwenda endzaweni yaseDinabanye eveni laseNingizimu Afrika. Lomelelo umbuso kuleli cala lovela ehhovisini lebashushisi kuleli ngumacebo nqumalo uthi Makhunga uthi ukulungele kuyobhekana nalamacala labekwe wona.
The respondent was arrested on the strength of a provisional arrest, Lordship, which I have just submitted before this honorable court, Your Lordship. The Lordship is to prepare a consent order, Lordship, that will be duly filed in the intervening period, Your Lordship, as the matter will come back on the 16th of April, which is next week, Your Lordship. Will utilize Article 9 of the SATAC Protocol, Your Lordship, in respect of this matter, which provides about the simple process of extradition. It provides that if the fugitive or the respondent consents to the authority that he can be extradited back to his home country, Your Lordship, the issue of the formal extradition request, Your Lordship, can be overtaken, Your Lordship.
Tinkomo tamasiso setisuse umsindvo lapho khona abantwana bemfati lomdzala baswela make wabo lomncane ngekutsengisa tinkomo tababe wabo letinge-30 zikatiphendvulela make lomncane watise ikhomishani lephenya kungaphatheki kahle kwemafa ehhovisini lakamaster ngekuthi letinkomo letifunwa ngilabantwana bekukadze tisisiwe.
Umufi Malibala Christian Dlamini washona ngeminyaka ka-2016 bekakade sebafatile ababili. Umfati lomdzala lokungilafaka ukuthi Homakhela kumalinza wazele wesibili lokunguNtombi Dlamini ulashiba Homakhela enhlambeni. Ngesikhathi umntwana wamakela omdzala avele embi kwekhomishani lephenya tinsoloto ekungaphatheki kahle kwemafa ehhovisini lakamaster. Sikelela Dlamini ukhala ngekuthi tinkomo letinge-30 tanyamalala.
Ukuthola kwami ngaqala ukuthola ngekholiya examiner kokuqala ukuthi kwase kuna-30 inkomo lokuphumile. Le kumake gametse angathi ukuthi le affidavit yakhe kuze yongena efayileni yangena ngamuphi executor ngoba mina angiyadi.
Make lomncane Ntombi Dlamini ulashiba usileta inkomo betikaze kutemasiso uthi uyamangala ukuthi bantwana bamake lomdzala bangena kanjani esibayeni sakhe.
Kani babe ushona nje labantu sobatshelile labantu betinkomo ukuthi sasanta inkomo tena ngisakhona ukulusa. Lomnye nje kunangalo ngemuva bekasebenza naye emetro amdayisela letinkomo afundisa bona labantwana natilekimi letinkomo ngeze ngaske mine giya letinkomo letibedala abantwana ngibamba titshengise kudala abantwana mina nje tinkomo abantu abakethu ngikhokha nje tikhokha ngeligunya ukuthi ngikhokha esibayeni sakami nginiketa abantu tinkomo tabo kusala tinkomo talakhaya.
Isikela lamasi emahhovisini kamaster kaManzini izipho zonke fakuthe uthi Sikelela Dlamini bekade ifihlile tinkomo tamake wakhe lamtalako kodwa afuna kudla tamake lomncane.
Akusikho lokuthi kwaphuma tinkomo tamaClements kuphela. Taphuma ntaya kumakwa. Baclaimile bacedile twice tabarizela 3 wekuqala to 2020 tabarizela yini last year. Bebecela ukuthi kufunzwe ngomntwana. Akusiko ukuthi atika sekuphume bese sebeyivumile yakhe lesakabo sibaya lesifika.
Sihlalo wekhomishani lephenya kungaphatheki kahle kwemafa ehhovisini lakamaster amajahe engaba Dlamini uthi kulukhuni kutfola emaciniso kulendzaba.
Mhlambe kusabhangana kahle inkomo ngendlela imali okuyise kuyakhiwa noma vele bevele kunjalo kunjalo mangalolunye mexaje ukuthi maze ngimtshela umthetho uthi nangabe masebe kangawa.
Tatsewe mufi loMadlozi Dlamini uvumelana namake lomncane ukuthi letinkomo letinge-30 letakhishwa esibayeni semufi bekaze kutemasiso. Uthi umufi watehlukanisa tibayata labomake bakhe lababili uthi yena wathatha tinkomo letiyimfica kuleti lokuthiwa atatiwa ukuthi tashonaphi. Uthi lenkomo latithatha bekaze kutamama wakhe lomtalako. Etindzabeni kubika Fortune Dlangamandla nginaThemba Shabangu sisembabane.
Kutemidlalo umphathi wenhlangano lengamele inhlangano tetemidlalo lapha eveni Darius Lomo uthi lenhlangano seyibuke kuhambisana nenkulumo yeSilo inkosi umthatho wesithathu leyaveta kumancamo endzebeni engonyama cup kuthi kusifiso sayo kubona temidlalo tichubeka nekuthuthuka lapha eveni.
Ukuta nje lwandle vele libuke siselibhodlile kwethu losekusele sekuthi sihlolisise tinhlelo tethu temidlalo and sizame ukuthi siqinise. Belungu bakhuluma nge-intensification. We will do just that and intensify lama programs ethu ema-sports kuze kuthi lokushiwe ingonyama usheshe emaswati akuphathe ngetandla. Sithokote nje kakhulu. And we are excited ukuthi kwendeka at a time i-budget yethu se-sports movement uhulumende wembube uyikhulisile ku-financial year lephelile nanyalo uyi-maintainile and siyanaka ukuthi sekuningi lesingakhona kukwenda kufaka tinhlelo tekuthuthukisa tona temidlalo kuze lokhu kucelwa ingwenyama kube liphupho lelisheshe silibambe ngetandla. Sitaba netinhlelo nje ikakhulu tabomake kubafaka uma-sports bacecesheke balolongeke ezingeni lelithi basetudlwanyana.
Sadipeza indzaba tefunga leto temidlalo hlala natsi siyabuya khona manje.
Be sure to catch Business Watch every Wednesday between 2 p.m. to 3 p.m., where we feature the latest updates on business news, market trends, and exclusive interviews with industry leaders, as well as insights on emerging small and medium enterprises in the commercial sector. Business Watch, your business leader.
Renewal of TV licenses for 2024 is now open. Here is a quick reminder. A viewer's TV license costs 180 emalangeni per device. Other accessories such as decoders and set-top box cost 50 emalangeni per device. For traders and repairers, TV license costs 300 emalangeni per business area. And now, to pay your TV license, use these following methods. You can use MTN Mobile Money with the number 762222000 or dial *007 *3 *7 hash. Or you can use Eswatini Imali. And you can pay our TV license at any post office in the country. Another option is you can use any NetBank branch using our TV license account number 119900430037. Don't forget, when paying for your viewer's TV license, reference with your PIN at all times. And when paying for a retailer TV license, reference with your TIN at all times. For more information, call us on 7802-4543 or 34050163 or 34020879. And you can send us a WhatsApp message on 762222000.
Right, it's 32 minutes after 6. Welcome back to the program. At this very moment, we'll connect to Cindy Mtimkulu using a virtual link. She is the Chief Executive Officer of the Joint River Basin Authorities Project Board. We want to talk about the financing strategy and roadmap for priority water-related climate technologies. They had a stakeholder workshop. Eswatini Laitolo Embabane Hotel Le Hilton Garden in Napokona. Babenema strategies laba propose ekuthenini kuguquguquka kwesimo selitulo lesekutene tinsaya letiningi nakangaka baku solve kanjani bahlangabetana kanjani nako. What are some of the smart solutions that they are coming up with to really, be able to mitigate all probably the challenges that will come with climate change, particularly affecting Cindy, welcome to the program. A very good morning to you. You are quite remote from us, but we thank the emerging technologies lasavele akhona kusita ukuthi sichumane nani ngisho nkhashana. Umsebenzi lomuhle kakhulu lesiubonile wendeka itolo. Ekabe nje kusichazela kabanti ngawo lo msebenzi. What really prompted imisebenzi lefana nalena? What are some of these challenges that you have been seeing, particularly confronting the water sector caused by climate change?
Thank you very much, Sifiso. Kusile, good morning. Ngivusele nakubo babukeli be TV yaseSwatini. Sibonga kakhulu kusifeaturisha this morning regarding our efforts as the water sector ukuthi sidelishe netindzaba te climate change water sector. You would know ukuthi climate change is a big issue everywhere, and Eswatini, like every other country nayo iyatimisela ukuthi idilishe nalesimo. Sitfoleke i-project sayitfola angisho njalo, it's almost 2 years now. I-project lesayitfola from Global Climate Fund, readiness project, whereby we are being assisted, shortest assistant nje, laba baka climate change unit in the country, ukuthi badilishe netindzaba tesimo sekuguquguquka kwesimo selitulu. Kule readiness project ke lenziwa under GWP, ihostwe i-Natural Resources ihambisane nayo i-Ministry of Tourism and Environment Affairs, ihleli lapha kithi ka-Joint River Basin Authorities ngoba ngithi lesi-coordinator imisebenzi yama-stakeholders water sector. Sisenda le misebenzi leyo-ke kunalo munye lomkhulu lohambelana nekokuthi senda njani ukuthi sifole ama-technologies adapted to climate change. This specific project is related to coming up with climate adaptation technologies for the water sector, and also now zeroing down to looking at the mechanisms within which we can finance such technologies, leading to the aspect of how we will ultimately implement that, coming with a roadmap or an implementation plan, already looking at the potential funding sources and things like that.
Map, and of course you are still going to look closely into the implementation plan, but I suppose speaking of the roadmap, there are some proposed strategies that you probably highlighted or outlined during the workshop. Itolo, how many are those strategies, and perhaps highlight some of the ones that could probably excite us?
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much. This process has been a really extensive stakeholder engagement process. Saqala ngokuthi siye ku research basically. Siye into out there in the world sibuke ukuthi labanye benda njani ngalokho. Consultant yethu lebesebenza nayo ma stakeholders yetane indlela leti over 100 means of adapting as the water sector. Sabuya nato, satibuka through several meetings as stakeholders, satirenka. Now renka ke ubuka ukuthi nguphi lokungasebenta nje Eswatini. We are looking at things ukuthi how is the technology advanced generally? How is it mature? Kungumalini kuyenda? Ingabe i-uptake yayo ingaba njani Eswatini? Sive semaswati sona siyakholelwa yini kuleyo ndlela yekusebenta leyo. Ku-possible yini vele ngoba thola ukuthi lenye into ingasebenta eNgilandi kodwa Eswatini ngeke izisebente ngoba kumbe idalelwe ukuthi idilishe nesimo selitulu lesihlukile kunalesethu. So we ranked those through a multi-criteria analysis. Sagcina sesinaleti ngu-30 emashumi lamathathu ema-technologies. Nasinawo lang 30 solo manengi. Sibathe sesitawathini-ke ngcono siwehlukanise saphinde sawarenka again, sawa-prioritize ngendlela kokuthi kenyelo sesiyawa-organize. Ngimaphi lakayi-hardware lakadzinga ukuthi vele uhambe uyothenga into, umshini ufake imali ubone into lebonakalako. So those hardware technologies, nalamanye-ke laka-software, in which case kungenteka nje ukuthi i-activity lehambelana ne-behavior, lehambelana nekushintsha nje indlela lo wenda ngayo, sawa-categorize, sagcine sinalang 16, lekungona-ke siwendele le-analysis yethi sitawafinansa njani-ke. Kusho nje ngingabekisa ngikhombise sithombe emaswati ukuthi when you talk hardware technologies, you're talking about monitoring systems where you will install a gauging instrument, or you are talking drip irrigation, where ufaka vele indlela letsite eknisela, or we are even talking lead dam, like a small holder water harvesting infrastructure, tinto leti kanjalo. But kunalamanye lafana nokuthi udadisha into letsite. Those are the software, like understanding the state of groundwater in Eswatini. Using regulation instruments for monitoring or managing water resources better, capacity development initiatives in certain aspects, uthola ukuthi lawo ke ma softwares. So you realize ekugcineni kwakhona ukuthi angu 16 wona lama technologies, but in terms of implementation akadzingi sikhathi lesifana nako noma imali efana nawo ngoba lamanye ungavela uwacale ngoba wona ahambelana nekushintsha nje ibehavior nendlela lesenda ngawo kanzi lamanye vele kufuna ukubhala ama-proposal uyofuna imali uze uyofundwa maybe libhange maybe international institution at some other point. So I was just clarifying the number of technologies, the approach, and the way in which we are approaching this Gule strategy to implement our 16 technologies that we have under a priority now.
Yeah, and you know what, we've had the Minister for Agriculture, Honorable Mandla Chauka, and he speaks with passion and is always frank about the challenge, the big challenge of water currently confronting the agriculture sector. And he did highlight that they will need really smart technologies regarding water harvesting, and indeed it is necessary. You think about it, Cindy, agriculture in Eswatini sustains livelihoods of about 75% of our population, and they also supply raw materials to key agro-processing and manufacturing industry. Care to highlight to us how important water is? I mean, it can never be emphasized enough. We could never take water for granted. Water is very essential. But care to highlight some of these economic, benefits that Eswatini ought to get from a sustainable and efficient water sector?
Thank you so much. I think ngawuqala lapho nje kulobo highlight honorable minister yaga agriculture ukuthi uhlala emphasize irole yemandi. Water is at the center of all development, and la Eswatini specifically emandi adlala indima lenkulu in the agriculture sector. It's almost surprising ukuthi each time sibithi imhlangano sikhulumisa emandi ungathi sibite balimi kanti ngiloko ukuthi vele ngibo labasebenzisa imali kakhulu. Na ukhuluma nje ngelive laseSwatini lilodwa nje, you can say over 95% walamali lesinawo live onke asebenda kulima. Kulima ke tinto letehlukile kodwa ke nase sikhuluma ngemoba nje uwodwa which is the backbone of our economy. Idla emandla amaningi kakhulu. So na ukhuluma ke ukuthi emandla asebenza in the agriculture space, yebo bese ayasebenza ku-industry, asebende maybe in the domestic sector, asebende bo tourism and things like that, lamanye ma non-consumptive uses, konke lokho lokunye sekusherisha lo 5%. So ifocus yethu vele nasikhuluma nge-adaptation in the water sector, sikhuluma ngale ndlela lesitawusebenzisa imali ngayo in the agriculture space because that's our biggest use. So ifocus yethu ingiko ukuthi vele si-attende lokulahleka kwemali nasinisela. I-drip irrigation, for example, indlela yokusetshenziswa kwemadamu kuwa-optimizer, ungakhiphi nje dudulayini emanti agijime noma ayaphi. Wende indlela letingitoto ukuthi ukhone kubona ukuthi wona lo mhlabathi unawo emanti womile noma udzinga kuniselwa vele. Lawo ma-efforts lawo lakatawuseva atawusita ngoba le agriculture kucala la kuyo sinisele bese sesenda lamanye ama-products bese ke sesiya ko-processing noma ke siya industry noma siya ko-mining. Letinye tintfo tikhona nato tiyawasebenzisa imali, but in our economy the anchor of our economy still remains agriculture, and the major water use also correlates naloko ukuthi agriculture. So vele our efforts even in these adaptation technologies are going so much into that. Notwithstanding emakhaya sifiso nasemakhaya manje siyawasebenzisa, so we still also have technologies lakahambelana ma-smart toilets, water saving toilets, ngoba luwawona lokuflasha nje lapho kunemanti lamaningi uthola ukuthi imithoyi yethu isebenzisa emanti lamaningi kakhulu ukuthi siflashe. So i-retrofitting nayo is amongst the things we are considering. That's for domestic and industrial use as well.
I wonder, looking at Eswatini's energy supply agreement coming into the end with Eskom, if some of the technologies we want to include in Eswatini or introduce in Eswatini are reliant on hydropower, and I suppose water will be quite essential there. There's no hydropower without water.
Definitely, yes. That integration, the nexus approach between emanti ne-energy nekudla ne-environment, bakubita nge-WEF nexus, baze bathi wefe, bafake lo E ekugcineni. Vele nathi sikuleyo, even in this climate adaptation technologies approach, lesiyendako sikobuke holistically. Sinema, even ama-projects leswa-developwa kuthiwa ama-project proposal, ama-concept notes, laga prioritize the WEF nexus approach, where we have to, while doing ama-systems ukuthi emanti siwaphambe abe mancane siwasebenzise kancane la siwasebenzisa khona si-consider nale energy aspect, because emanti wasukumisa ngemandla la achamuka khona, bawaphampa ngetinjini noma sebanisela letimpompi letilapha tidzinga i-pressure letsite, so i-energy iyabadla vele balimi, uthola ukuthi lamanti maybe akhona kodwa lo gas uyabadulela. So le nexus yokuthi wenda njani tinto efana nema-variable speed drives ukuthi udilishe nale energy consumption yakho ingaphikhi kakhulu, ingendi lama-variations bese kudla kakhulu la ikhikhini. Sende tona leto tinto leto nasikhulumisa le-efficiency. Hydropower is the future, clean energy is the future, so nathi si-water sector vele we are recognizing that. Lokusho ukuthi nje ngathi in terms of hydropower, eMaswati kufuneka-ke arealize ukuthi nasifuna ukuthi sicale sigenerate kunkhona sinisela kusho ukuthi lamadamu-ke asiwakhe enhla phela nemfula ukuze ukuthi le hydropower ibele enhla iwakhiphela amanti ngoba yona ayiwadli. Sicale siphehle gas ngawo akuqhubeke aye emfuleni bese sesinisela ngawo. So it's that spatial planning nayo lemcoka ukuthi ini uyibeke kuphi ukuze ukuthi sithole optimal use and optimal gains from our available water resources.
Okay, I want us to wrap up our conversation by, of course, I agree that you already outlined the fact that technologies have been identified. You went from 30 of them to 16 of them, and indeed they are those of priority. The question then becomes, has a financing strategy and roadmap to implement these strategies been developed?
Yes, so it doesn't help for us ukuthi sithi sina 16 wetinto lesifuna kutenda singafiki ekutheni ngabe sitatenda njani. So yesterday's meeting basically was looking into the strategy lenyalo. So uyawathola ke lama technologies ang-16, so ufuna ukuwacwaninga ngayinye ngayinye. Lena inayo inivele imithetho leyisupportako ukuthi ngendeka la eSwatini. Ngimiphi le mithetho? Ngibaphi abantu lasebavele benta letinye tinto letihambelana nalokho. Kuze ukuthi-ke ukhona ukuthi u-spread le uptake yale technology udzingani tinto letingendiwe. So we were looking at those activities, the technology push things letitenda ukuthi ngenda ne technology adoption, the pull factors letenda ukuthi singa-implementa njani. And then who is the potential funder? Lo munye maybe ngu-GIZ, ngu-GCF, ngu-JEF, libhange, noma inkampani lesevele isebenta nje le kwendako lokho, we were looking at that, and also who are the stakeholders that will be involved in that. So the next steps ekufanele ke nyalo naso uspecific ukuthi sengi-implementa lokho, so ubala ke action by action ukuthi kungimalini ukukhoste kungikhona ke ufika ukuthi wenda njani. So nyalo sigcine sinale action plan ukuthi sitawucala ngalokho silandzelise ngalokho ngoba lokhu kulula nje, it's only a software thing noma lokhu kuyi-hardware kutothatha sikhashana, and we are at that stage now of planning the phased implementation of these technologies in Eswatini.
Okay, now fair enough. I wanted to ask, how soon can we see, you know, the rubber hitting the ground? But let me not, ask that question. It's a bit intrusive, but I just want to say we are happy that you guys are being proactive as it's confronting your climate change, and it sounds like a really, really exciting project. And all the best.
Thank you so much. Sibonge kakhulu September sitawubambisana neMaswati kuwo umsebenzi. All the best.
Thank you so much, Cindy. Cindy Mtimkulu, she's the Chief Executive Officer of the Joint River Basin Authorities Project Board. Usichazela nje kabanti ngemsebenzi lababenawo etolo babuka emasu lahlakaniphile nesingasho ukuthi nje ebuchwephesha latawusita kuhlangabetana netinsiya letilethwa ke ukuguquguquka kwesimo selitulu, particularly eluhlangothini lwetemandi lapha events. So sichazeleke kabanti ngako konke, ngingabese sengiya dilute kulesikhathi sanyalo njalo sitawuba hlola market. Sikhulumisana na Tibuyile Dube from Linamandla Medical about autism. It's still Autism Awareness Month. Siyafuna nje ukukhulumisa yona indzaba yesimo hayisifo. Simo se autism ekuthenini live la kangwane alichubeke libe aware ngaso lesimo lesi. Lathi newe ukuthi how do we deal with it? Sibabe asba stigmatize labo ke laba autistic nyalo after the break.
Kude lesinye isikhathi ngaphandle kwalesi.
Aba research bafunze.
Being risky means ukuthi nalokuwa kwayo kulula.
Nathi kufuna sende ukukhicita lokusemndeni.
Renewal of TV licenses for 2024 is now open. Here is a quick reminder. A viewer's TV license costs 180 emalangeni per device. Other accessories such as decoders and set-top box cost 50 emalangeni per device. For traders and repairers, TV license costs 300 emalangeni per business area. And now, to pay your TV license, use these following methods. You can use MTN Mobile Money with the number 76222000 or dial *007 *3 *7 hash. Or you can use Eswatini Imali. And you can pay our TV license at any post office in the country. Another option is you can use any NetBank branch using our TV license account number 119900430037. Don't forget, when paying for your viewer's TV license, reference with your PIN at all times. And when paying for a retailer TV license, reference with your TIN at all times. For more information, call us on 7802-4543 or 34050163 or 34020879. And you can send us a WhatsApp message on 762222000.
Ujala masada mahle kunathi lesa.
Sabatandi ukuthi njengalokhu sifile sive sikhulume.
All right, it's 52 minutes after 6. Welcome back to the program. We welcome Tibuyile Dube. She's an occupational therapist with Linamandla Medical. We want to talk about Autism Awareness Month and how it relates to occupational therapy. As she is an occupational therapist looking at such matters. Tibuyile, welcome to the program. Very lovely to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Autism, first and foremost, I just recently learned that SIFO.
Yes.
It's not a disease, it's a condition, and it's something that, they told me with emphasis that we should clearly highlight that on air, sifundzise maswati akusiso sifo bekunene, it's simo, it's a condition. Siyacela ukuthi ke ningathi bantu laba autistic banesifo sansani, banesimo. Kusichazela nje as I welcome you to the program. As it's still Autism Awareness Month, particularly occupational therapy, what are issues that you deal with?
Okay. So ngicale nje ngi-explain ukuthi what is the profession itself, because la kangwane siyati ukuthi occupational therapy is not very common. So occupational therapy ku-explain nje le term lethi occupation kuqala kusho ukuthi kwenda. And kwenda ke kubahlangothi lahlukile. It's either kuba semsebentini
kuba kwenda nje timvo leti ma daily ADLs look to activities of daily living, which can be bathing, dressing. So occupational therapy, we are rehabilitating that specific occupation, logo gwenda gwemumvu. So in terms of autism spectrum disorder, so kanza ukuthi labo bamvu bataba nema difficulties in a term of a spectrum, meaning ukuthi kutahlukahlukana ngebamvu. Labanye bamvu banga depending on the severity yale difficulty lanayo mumfu, labanye ngebakhone kukhuluma, labanye ngebakhone kugeza, labanye ngebakhone ku-interacta in specific situations. So that is where occupational therapy comes in. So sithi rehabilitator lawo ma-occupations, labanye kuba ukuthi baba nema difficulties esikolweni. So occupational therapist iba nemfana lo ne-autism, whereby we sit down with the child bese sesibuka ukuthi kule occupation yaka education yini difficulties loyo mfana lanawo lahlukile kulabanye bamvu, njengoba sesishito nje ukuthi akusiyo yona illness, but kuba ukuthi bona cabanga uma babone timvo differently from other people. Yeah.
We also learned that you are quite, emphatic about necessitating and telling autistic patients to really look into sensory diet lifestyles. Care to explain what those are for Mbukeli Losekhaya who do not really understand these big terms and terminology and jargon that you guys use? What is a sensory diet lifestyle, and why do you emphasize it so much for autistic patients?
Okay, so let me just first explain the sensory parts of autism. So people that are living with autism do struggle with a lot of sensory processing. So meaning that the way that we receive stimulation, they receive it differently. Kunika nje example, ukhanza ukuthi nje nangabe kunema lights ukhanza ukuthi umfana reacta in a way that is bizarre, meaning ukuthi overwhelmed ngaleyo light.
Case in point would be right here in the studio. You're reacting quite normally.
Yes.
For them it would be something different.
For them it would be completely different.
Yeah.
Because it is a different environment. Even nalokuthi nje babe senza when lekne bamkhona labaningi bangaba overwhelmed. So a sensory diet is whereby we sit down and we plan ukuthi nangabe siyambona ukuthi loyo mfana is maybe overwhelmed or underwhelmed in specific situations, we then see how we adapt for them. So that is how it mostly looks like. So, and then for adults as well, because actually autism akusiyo imvo lesingathi iyatreateka imvo umfla phila nayo, it's part of who they are. Yeah. Yes. So even with adults ukhanza ukuthi they struggle with a lot of social integration, struggle with being in society. So that's where an OT will also sit down with them and say, okay, how do we overcome these barriers that you're facing and feeling overwhelmed? Yes.
I'm learning that at the crux of it, as you know, giving me all these answers, at the crux of it is adaptation. Really. Adaptation. We have just 1 minute left, so if you will, just explain to me if this is solely the biggest, I'd say, issue around autism, adaptation, and is that the reason, therefore, that compels you to have BOMA peer groups and social participation activities to make sure that they are really integrated into society and they get used to that? Do they get used to that, or it's something that has to be?
I think in that aspect we need a lot of support from society itself, right? Because we need to be aware of the differences that autistic people experience, so that we are able to adapt with them. So there needs to be the adaptations, and nabo bagcine kuba comfortable for them, so it's helpful for them.
Okay. Tibile Dube, occupational therapist with Lina Mandla. Let's co-opt occupational therapy as society and really play a big part in making sure that we include autistic patients into, we integrate them into our everyday activities and we treat them like they're just like us. Let's watch let Magete Masinyani start.
Are you ready to own your future? Boto University Eswatini campus is proud to announce a golden opportunity for aspiring students.
I am more convinced that this is the best university on the face of the planet.
Boto University Eswatini is fully registered and accredited by Eswatini Higher Education Council and has opened doors to offer enrollment for government-sponsored students. At Boto University, we believe in empowering minds, nurturing talents, and shaping the architects of a future prosperous Eswatini.
We produce quality graduates who propagate the growth and development of our region.
With our world-class faculty and cutting-edge resources with international partnership and student exchange program, you'll receive an education that goes beyond textbooks. Boto University offers a 4-year bachelor's degree in business, accounting, computing, mobile computing and network security and computer forensics, as well as health information management.
Boto University.
Vibrance. Innovation.
Impact.
On 7 a.m. Central African Time. Welcome back to the program. We get into our English news segment. Thank you for staying with us thus far. The first story, the Minister for Home Affairs, Princess Lindiwe, says preparations for the 56th King's birthday celebrations are going really well. The Minister was speaking at Mangayane shortly after inspecting progress at the Mangayane Sports Ground, where this momentous event is going to be held on the 19th of this month.
In less than 10 days' time, the Manzini region in Mangayane is going to host one of the major events in the country's calendar, the King's birthday celebrations. His Majesty is going to celebrate his 56th birthday here in Mangayane. The Minister for Home Affairs, Princess Lindiwe, met with all stakeholders who are responsible for preparation for this big event. The Minister then came here at this stadium behind me to inspect the preparations. The Minister was briefed that indeed preparations are at an advanced stage, although there are challenges with the weather.
Hayi malungiselelo ahamba kahle kakhulu. Njengoba ubona nje lapha emva kwami kuyaphithitela. Siphuma emhlanganweni nje nanyalo vele. Sesivele simenge mumo sesitshele ukuthi evikini lelitako umsebenzi wenkosi uyachubeka. Sijabuliswa nje ukuthi sive seMangayane naso sitawujabula. Sijabule nesinelive lonke la kaNgwane kungasiye eMangayane evana ngoba phela siyathi ukuthi lo msebenzi lona ngolohlanganisa live. Lo msebenzi lona ngiyolo wenda ukuthi live libe ne-identity. Bantu batati ukuthi bangemaswati baphindze batigcaphela ngalo buswati babo. Ngoko lo msebenzi lona siva sijabula ngawo nasiva ukuthi naku sokhona. Ngaphandle kwalokuthi nje live latalelwa lokuhle kwalo ngalosuku lolu. Ngoba nako kukhulu kufanele sikucelebrate sikubonge ngoba into lenkulu lokho ngonyama ivex emaswati ayayithanza ayayijabulela ayayisupporta ngilapho sitawutshengisa khona ngalo lesihlanu ukuthi sivele simenayo. So thineke vele sesiyalungisa nje oba sihlangene nje sichama inhlangothi singetinhlangothi tahulumende. Ngilo nalo make sure ukuthi bangakwakhe akuphumelele kuze kulo msebenzi wenkosi utophumelele ube mhle thina vele sijabulile si excited nabo netikhulu nabenkosi bakaManzini benginabo itolo nabo batshengisa injabulo ukuthi bawugadze ngemehlo amabili lo msebenzi wengonyama ukuthi uchubeke eMangayane thina sesibhekele okuhle nje kodvana siyathandaza nganhlanye ukuthi nje kubebede lokuphathamisako konke kuhambe kahle.
The Minister does hope that all those who will be making different procurements in preparation for this event are going to adhere to all procurement regulations in the Kingdom of Eswatini. She says such an event helps in terms of economic growth of the region and especially for Mangayane town.
Kutabe kubulanga lekujabula la. Asite nenjabulo yethu siyiphethe sitokhela kulomunye ngalomunye. Kepha sithi sijabulile sibe sihlonipha ngoba umsebenzi amaswati adwa ngehlonipha nalapho sihlangane khona singemaswati asihloniphane nithine sihloniphe labaphethe labatabe basitshengisa ukuthi sibheka ngakuphi umfu alalele lokho latshengiswa kona alandzele leyo instruction laniketwa yona ukuthi ubheka ngala sibheke nje injabulo yodvana neatmosphere yodvana lenhle yodvana Sihloniphane ke bama bekunene njoba sidume ngako.
This is not going to be the first time Mangayane hosts such a big event. And indeed, the town board believes that after the King's birthday celebrations, Mangayane will never be the same in terms of economic activity. With Eswatini TV News, I'm Lincoln Gule, Mangayane.
The Ministry of Home Affairs says schools should stop instructing pupils to apply for passports in substitute for identification cards. Now, the ministry's communications office, Amlanvo Dlamini, says these two documents are different. They cannot be used for similar purposes.
Influx of school-going children, whereby they are applying for travel documents, but not for the specific use of the document. But for other purposes, like sort of an identification during their sporting events. So as a ministry, we kindly request or plea with the sports organizers and also head teachers to actually assist the ministry in identifying a different kind of identification for their children, due to the fact that, remember, passports are highly subsidized documents. So a misuse of passport actually will have a negative impact on other people in the future. So we request the public to actually work with us in ensuring that these documents or people who come to apply for the document are the people who are in dire need of the documents, not just for another purpose or a secondary purpose or a substitution for an identity document.
The accused persons in the murder of hip-hop artist Kiernan, a.k.a. Forbes, and his friend Tebelo Tibbs Motswane opposed the extradition application filed by the South African National Prosecuting Authority. This transpired at the Manzini Magistrate Court, where the extradition application was set to continue. Other extradition applications made for suspects that are wanted by South African law authorities that were heard by Manzini Principal Magistrate David Khumalo are those of Mfane Nkosi Makakula and Ngosietu Makunga. The extradition applications are filed by the South African law authorities under the Extradition Act of 1968. Makakula Ofumliba is wanted in South Africa to answer to charges of murdering Sandile Matsebula at Nkanyamazane. He also faces a charge of attempted murder as well as defeating the ends of justice, that after committing the offenses he escaped from South Africa to Eswatini. Makakula is represented by lawyer Sivesonke Ngwenya. Principal Magistrate told the court that Ngwenya has not taken instructions from Makakula. He ordered that when the case resumes in May 14, 2023, Ngwenya is expected to inform the court about his client's instructions to the application. Meanwhile, Makunga of Ngwavuma area in South Africa is wanted for double murder. He is accused of murdering two elderly people in Dinabanye in his home country. He allegedly murdered Nomhlango Mngomezulu, aged 78, and Jenny Mngomezulu, who is aged 85. He accused the elderly people of practicing witchcraft, and then he committed both offenses on February 20, 2024. The Director of Public Prosecutions, Principal Crown Counsel Macebo Nxumalo, informs the court that Makunga is not opposed to the application.
The respondent was arrested on the strength of a provisional arrest, which I have just submitted before this honorable court, Your Lordship. The Lordship is to prepare a consent order, Your Lordship, that will be duly filed in the intervening period, Your Lordship, as the matter will come back on the 16th of April, which is next week, Your Lordship. Will utilize Article 9 of the SADC Protocol, Your Lordship, in respect of this matter, which provides about the symbol process of extradition. It provides that if the fugitive or the respondent consents to the authority that he can be extradited back to his home country, Lordship, the issue of the formal extradition request, Your Lordship, can be overtaken, Your Lordship.
The United States of America Embassy in Eswatini says there's still a lot of opportunities for export to the United States for local businesses under the African Growth Opportunity Act, which is at the cornerstone of the country's economic engagement with the countries in Africa. This was said by Economic Officer Christopher Wall during an interview to establish how Eswatini has benefited under the act.
During his speech from the throne when opening Parliament this year, His Majesty King Mswati III mandated the National Trade and Facilitation Committee to turn Eswatini into a trade hub. In order for this to come into fruition, there is a need for all stakeholders to play their part. We have asked the American Embassy on how local businesses are benefiting from the African Growth Opportunity Act.
Over 6,700 product categories are able to enter the United States without paying any tariff rates whatsoever. What this allows exporters from Eswatini to do is to ship their products at a rate that's cost effective for them, opening one of the largest consumer markets in the world to MSY businesses.
The embassy's economic officer also explained what opportunities are still available under the Act.
So some of the areas that businesses in Eswatini have been very successful in exporting to the U.S. are in sugar. Another area is in textiles, where large textile manufacturers here and apparel manufacturers are able to ship to the U.S. And then the third area, which I think is growing and is probably growing the most for small and medium-sized enterprises, is in food and value-added agriculture. Given the strength of agriculture in this country, an area where I would see small and medium-sized enterprises continuing to be successful is in the sort of prepared and specialty food sector. I think that the advantage there is that you're not trying to ship a commodity like fruit or vegetables. You've created a real product with a real brand identity, and that makes it something that's worth shipping to the United States, something that American consumers really get excited by.
The Youth Chamber of Commerce Industries Eswatini says they are engaging the youth in business to take advantage of the opportunities under the Act. For Eswatini TV News, Nelson Dlangamandla, Vuminkosi Nzinisa, Babane.
Welcome back. For this segment, we'll look at international news. Europe's climate monitor said on Tuesday that March was the hottest on record and the 10th straight month of historic heat, with sea surface temperatures also hitting a shocking new high.
From drought in Zimbabwe to record wildfires in Venezuela, every month since June 2023 has beaten its own hottest ever tag, and March 2024 was no exception. The European Union's Copernicus Climate Agency says the long-term trend of exceptional records has them very concerned.
Seeing records like this month in, month out, really shows us that our climate is changing rapidly, and climate change isn't a future problem. It is a problem that we have to face here and now.
Copernicus found that globally, March was 1.68 degrees Celsius hotter than an average March between the years 1850 and 1900, the reference period for the pre-industrial era. However, this doesn't mean the 1.5 degrees Celsius warming limit agreed in the Paris 2015 Accord has been breached. That figure is measured in decades, not individual years. The main cause of March's record heat was human-generated greenhouse gas emissions, though other factors also contributed, like El Niño, the weather pattern that warms parts of the Pacific Ocean. Sea temperatures also hit a new high in March, averaging just over 21 degrees Celsius. Experts say hotter oceans mean coral bleaching, more challenges for biodiversity, and more moisture in the atmosphere, which leads to increasingly erratic weather like fierce winds and powerful rain. El Niño is now weakening, which may help to break the hot streak towards the end of the year. However, scientists say that until the world achieves net zero carbon emissions, temperatures will continue to rise.
Russia and Kazakhstan ordered more than 100,000 people to evacuate after swiftly melting snow swelled mighty rivers beyond bursting point in the worst flooding in the area for at least 70 years.
From above the ground, Russia's Minister for Emergencies and Disaster Relief takes in the damage. Entire villages in the region of Orenburg are submerged. For the last 2 days, water levels have been rising here near the border with Kazakhstan, which has also been hit by floods. Now, the city of Orenburg is bracing itself as the water level in the Ural River, the third longest in Europe, is rising significantly, prompting the mayor to urge residents to evacuate.
The situation is very serious. The water can come quickly. In addition to those territories that have already been flooded, the water will flood other ones. Don't waste time. Evacuate children and the elderly from homes before the water level rises.
The floods have been caused by melting snow from nearby mountains. More than 10,500 houses have been damaged. The city of Orsk is the worst hit so far, though water levels are now subsiding.
At the moment, the situation's stabilized. The water level started to recede in certain areas.
Residents of Orsk protested against the government's response on Monday in a rare show of dissent in Russia. The Kremlin said President Vladimir Putin has no plans to visit the region, but that the floods are at the center of his attention. The worst is yet to come in Orenburg, which is home to 500,000 people. The Ural River is expected to reach unprecedented levels on Wednesday.
6 months into the war between Israel and Hamas in Gaza, Israel is at a crossroads. Israeli forces have not been able to eradicate Hamas or free the remaining hostages, and some analysts say the war could escalate further.
Israeli media reports say Israel will buy 40,000 tents to evacuate Palestinians from Rafah ahead of a planned ground invasion. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu this week said that Israel has a date for an invasion of Rafah in southern Gaza. Israeli analysts say that even without an invasion of Rafah, the 6-month-old war with Hamas is at a crossroads.
It can be escalation to a regional war because of Iran, because of Hezbollah, and it will move from Gaza to the north, from a limited war in Gaza to a regional war, and it can de-escalate towards a process that will de-escalate the war and will fix some of the problems. And we're really facing crucial days, maybe a week.
Both Hamas in Gaza and Hezbollah in Lebanon are proxies of Iran, and Yadlin says tensions with Iran have recently skyrocketed since Israeli strikes killed a senior Iranian general in Damascus last month.
Israel was very careful not to target Iranians. Since the 7th and the 8th of October, when Iran launched its proxies against Israel from Lebanon, from Syria, from Yemen, from Iraq, Israel changed the policy, and in this case, it seems like a big hit to Iran.
Israel has also come under growing international criticism for the worsening humanitarian crisis in Gaza. The UN says more than a quarter of Gaza's population is on the verge of starvation. The UN High Commissioner for Human Rights told the BBC that there is plausible evidence that Israel is using starvation as a weapon of war in Gaza.
The collective punishment that was declared with the siege is indeed amounts to a war crime, and it needs to be dealt as such.
Israel says the problem is distribution of aid and says it is not responsible.
So there's enough supplies going in. Where the problem lies is in the picking up the goods that are delivered and distributing them. So that is a very central bottleneck that we're seeing. And I think that here we need to ask where the UN organizations are, where the civil society organizations are, where are the people that need to distribute these goods?
Egypt has been hosting indirect talks between Israel and Hamas for a ceasefire and hostage release amid conflicting views on their chances for success.
Turkey restricted exports of a wide range of products to Israel on Tuesday until a ceasefire is declared in Gaza, in Ankara's first significant measure against Israel after 6 months of war. Israel said it would respond to the measures, which include curbs on exports of steel, fertilizer and jet fuel, with its own restrictions on productions from Turkey.
Spanning 54 different categories, Turkey's new trade restrictions on Israel affect materials like steel, fertilizers, iron, marble and jet fuel. Implemented after Israel rejected Turkey's request to drop aid into Gaza.
In response to this situation, we have decided to take a series of new measures against Israel. These measures, which were approved by our honorable president, will be implemented step by step without delay. They will remain in place until Israel declares a ceasefire and allows the unhindered access of humanitarian aid to Gaza.
In response, Israel's foreign minister said retaliatory measures would follow.
Erdogan is once again sacrificing the economic interests of the people of Turkey for his support of the Hamas murderers in Gaza.
On Saturday, police in Istanbul detained dozens of protesters demanding an end to trade with Tel Aviv. Turkey has denounced Israel for its campaign on Gaza since the October 7th Hamas attack. In mid-October, Turkey and Israel withdrew their ambassadors. Ankara has since called for an immediate ceasefire, supported steps to try Israel for genocide, and sent thousands of tons of aid for Gazans. However, despite this strong rhetoric, President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has maintained commercial ties with Israel. Analysts say this was a key factor for some of his party's losses in March 31st local elections. Tuesday's restrictions mark the first significant measure taken by Ankara against Israel since the start of the conflict.
With the European elections just 2 months away, a recent poll for French media has put the far-right National Rally Party firmly in the lead, averaging around 32% of support. Other polls across the continent also show a trend of voters leaning towards right-wing, nationalists or Eurosceptic parties.
It's 2 months until voters take to the polls in the 2024 European elections. With agriculture and immigration being some of the hot-button issues on this year's ballot, national poll and statistic outlets are showing a growth in support for far-right parties. In France, a poll published on the 8th of April predicted the far-right National Rally will secure at least 32% of the votes. It's an almost 10% increase from the party's 2019 results. Lagging behind in second place was the French Presidential Party of Renaissance with 19% of the votes, followed by the Socialist Party with 11%. The French politicians are on the campaign trail to secure the most ballots, and for the head of the National Rally Party, Jordan Bardella, time is of the essence.
Don't disperse your votes. Time is running out and victory is near. I call on the French people to control the June 9th European elections by voting. And I'd like to remind you of a simple rule. Abstaining means letting Emmanuel Macron and Brussels decide for you.
And France is not the only country showing this trend. In Germany, the far-right and Eurosceptic AfD party is currently ranking as the second largest political group nationwide. According to a poll conducted in March by Europe Elects, out of the 720 seats available in the EU Parliament in 2024, 163 of them are projected to go to the far-right Identity and Democracy and European Conservative and Reformist groups, securing them control of almost 23% of the Parliament.
They call themselves the Senior Women for Climate Protection. Now, after losing their case in their home country, these Swiss women have finally secured a landmark win. The European Court of Human Rights has ruled against the Swiss government, which the women had accused of not doing enough to combat global warming.
Themselves the Senior Women for Climate Protection. After losing their case in their home country, these Swiss women have finally secured a landmark win. The European Court of Human Rights has ruled against the Swiss government, which the women had accused of not doing enough to combat global warming.
The Swiss government has done too little on climate change. We have health and quality of life consequences for elderly people, and women are particularly vulnerable.
The court's president said that by failing to establish sufficient policies to combat climate change, Switzerland had breached the human right to a private and family life. MEP Damien Carême had been seeking a similar verdict. Previously the mayor of a coastal French town, Carême had argued that France's government had not taken adequate measures to prevent climate change, and said that as a result, his town is threatened by rising sea levels. But his case was thrown out. According to the court, Carême was not a victim in the case as he was living in Brussels when he filed his initial complaint. A case brought by 6 young people from Portugal was also dismissed. Hailing from areas of the country that were ravaged by wildfires in 2017, the group took 32 European countries to court.
Nothing will change the fact that European governments need to do so much more to ensure we have a livable future.
However, they were unsuccessful, as the court said they had not exhausted all legal options back home. The group welcomed the verdict on Switzerland, describing it as a win for everyone. A sentiment echoed by Greta Thunberg, who said the court's decision is only the beginning of climate litigation.
The solar eclipse that wowed viewers across North America on Monday was also a delight for the hospitality and retail sectors, with hotels, Airbnbs and restaurants booked along the eclipse path, while tourists also opened their wallets for viewing glasses and specialty camera lenses. Some estimates have put the total economic windfall at some $6 billion.
In the U.S. Capitol, not even within the path of totality, American eclipse watchers were prepared to mark the occasion with some significant purchases.
I'm in the store today because I would like to buy a very long telephoto lens. We're planning to walk out on the street at 3 p.m. and I wanted to get a longer lens to take a picture of the eclipse.
Monday's solar occlusion may have darkened the sun, but it's almost certain to have been a bright spot for the economy. Some 4 million Americans are believed to have traveled to view the eclipse, temporarily doubling the populations of cities like Cleveland, Ohio. Hotels fully booked months in advance. Airbnb searches for prime locations up a reported 1,000%. Tourism industry experts have compared the activity to holding 50 Super Bowls all at once.
When they travel, they experience the different events, the different activities, the destinations organized for them, and they spend. And so they spend actually a lot of money, and which will contribute and circulate in the local economy.
The eclipse is expected to have generated up to $1.5 billion in direct tourist revenues, with even more from indirect spending. A rare windfall, the next one won't be visible in the U.S. for another 2 decades.
Environmental and human rights activists are calling out on the Nigerian government to withhold approval of Shell's plans to sell off its operations in the Niger Delta, unless the oil giant does more to tackle pollution in the region, which is caused by the industry.
For decades, energy giants like Shell have extracted oil from Nigeria's Niger Delta. It has earned the companies and the Nigerian government billions of dollars, but locals have long complained of massive environmental damage.
You can't grow crops, you can't drink the water, you can't fish because the fish are dying or they're dead.
Shell announced in January it is pulling out of the Niger Delta, selling off its Nigerian subsidiary and its mining licenses and infrastructure to a consortium of 5 mainly local firms. Shell says it's part of a plan to transition away from fossil fuels. Civil society groups say Shell must do more to clean up the environment before it leaves. A recent report by the Dutch organisation, the Centre for Research on Multinational Corporations, or SOMO, warned the divestment plan is a ticking time bomb.
We are very concerned about the legacy of pollution being left behind by Shell, but not only Shell, but even other oil companies that have divested their assets from the Niger Delta. We believe that it's very important for the federal government to look into these issues because the oil is not going to flow forever.
Oil companies like Shell have often blamed theft and sabotage for oil spills, which is disputed by environmental groups. Locals also seek to make money from small-scale production, known as artisanal refining, Kayemba says.
What you have is a situation where artisanal oil refining is just reinforcing what has been happening, and yet that pollution had already existed. So by the time you begin to disentangle this, it becomes really difficult. You know, who is to blame who?
The SOMO report claims Shell is selling its operations to domestic companies that may not have the finances or willingness to deal with the old infrastructure. In a statement, Shell said that its divestment program will allow regulators to apply scrutiny across a wide range of issues and that the government has final approval. The firm said it will continue to deploy its technical expertise under the terms of the sale to the new buyers. The Nigerian government has indicated it intends to approve Shell's divestment plans. The Ministry for Petroleum Resources did not respond to VOA requests for comment.
Let's look at sports news for the last bit of our news, of our English news today. Eswatini Sports and Recreational Council Chief Executive Officer Darius Dlomo has hailed His Majesty King Mswati III for the words of wisdom that give sport movement direction. His Majesty King Mswati III was speaking during the finals of Ingwenyama Cup at Somhlolo National Stadium on Sunday, where he encouraged and implored the sport movement to keep on growing and be developed.
Ukuta nje lwandle vele libhubesise libhodlile kwethu losekusele sekuthi.
Speaking to Eswatini TV Sports, Eswatini Sports and Recreation Council Chief Executive Officer Darius Dlomo applauded His Majesty King Mswati III for the kind words of wisdom that not only are challenging the sports movement in the country, but are also encouraging and giving them direction of where to head when it comes to sporting activities in the Kingdom of Eswatini. Dlomo went on to add that with the budget that they have received in the current financial year 2023-2024, they are looking to prioritize excellence in sports by also giving opportunity to different stakeholders such as women in sports. Dlomo believes the sky is the limit if all sporting codes take His Majesty the King message in their daily practices and competitions.
Kubafaka sports baqeqesheke balolongeke ezingeni lelithi basedudlwanyana.
And that's it. We've come to the end of our English news today, but it's not the end of the show. We'll go for an ad break. Lungalele has an interview for you after the break.
Be sure to catch Business Watch every Wednesday between 2 p.m. to 3 p.m., where we feature the latest updates on business news, market trends, and exclusive interviews with industry leaders, as well as insights on emerging small and medium enterprises in the commercial sector. Business Watch, your business leader.
Renewal of TV licenses for 2024 is now open. Here is a quick reminder. A viewer's TV license costs 180 emalangeni per device. Other accessories such as decoders and set-top box cost 50 emalangeni per device. For traders and repairers, TV license costs 300 emalangeni per business area. And now, to pay your TV license, use these following methods. You can use MTN Mobile Money with the number 762222000 or dial *007 *3 *7#. Or you can use Eswatini Imali. And you can pay our TV license at any post office in the country. Another option is you can use any Nedbank branch using our TV license account number 119900430037. Don't forget, when paying for your viewer's TV license, reference with your PIN at all times. And when paying for a retailer TV license, reference with your TIN at all times. For more information, call us on 7802-4543 or 34050163 or 34020879. And you can send us a WhatsApp message on 762222000.
Silemukele sikuvusile nawe solo siqhubeka nalo luhlelo besivedile ukuthi sistabe sikhulumisana nalabasuka St Michael's High School lesikole ke lesike si-organize i-Career Expo yabafundi labasesifundeni sakaManzini elangeni la Itolo lapho khona over 11 schools attended the Career Expo. Ibalekele ke Career Expo ngalokuthi bamfana bathola lithuba lekubona ama-careers labangahle mhlawumbe bafune kubafundzela basaya khona enyuvesi. Joined by Raphael Masuku so khona St Michael's long life skills educator khona at St Michael's. Asikuvusele Masuku sibonga ukuthi ube nathi Itolo sibabonile abafundi Itolo etinzameni, they were excited and labanye baveda ukuthi vele bona bahlala noma ke bafunda edikolweni letikhashana etsemakhaya ngako ke ama opportunities aloluhlobo vele abasita kakhulu. Kusichazela nje vele bumcoka bayo i-Career Expo nokuva ukuthi deeply practical ndibonile particularly in the Manzini region ukuthi vele nizini benayo le Career Expo.
Siyabonga sivusele nababukela emakhaya njengoba sebachazile igama lami Raphael Masuku. I'm a teacher by profession. Ngifundisa i-maths ne-science bese kuba i-life skills education. Lapho khona ngingu career guidance officer HOD wase St Michael's. Yes, yebe Itolo besi nalo lo msebenzi lomkhulu kangaka we Career Expo whereby we are trying to give our learners an up close look at different career paths. Babone abantwana ukuthi esibafunza bafundelani because nakunento le motivator ko umntwana esikoleni is the immediate purpose lokuthi nje ade ukuthi ngifundzela ini. So ke bezama ke ba expose abantwana ukuthi babone ema careers abo ukuthi okay ema ambitious abo bafuna kwenta naku and more than anything besiphinde futhi siba organize le nema companies lokwenda ukuthi umntwana nakacetha kufundzela abephinde futhi abone ukuthi okay ngingasebenza la. So bekwa motivator kakhulu bajabulile abantwana. Mhlambe nje ukuchaza nje ngakwa kusho ukuthi bekungesiyo St Michael's kuphela but we were hosting the event. So asibonge nje ikakhulu uyo i-Ministry of Education ukuthi isivumele ukuthi si host such an event. Sibonge nakuso sikolo i-administration lebone kukuhle ukuthi besingahosta such an event. Siyabonga.
Okay, so ngiyadlo ukuthi vele anicali ku-host mhlambe i-Career Expo. You've been doing this for years. Niyabona nje ukuthi i-activity yalohlobo lolu liyabasida labantwana ingabe vele mhlawumbe sikuva nje ngema sectors la bayakhona Itolo sato ukuthi vele abafundi bayaba interested ukubona ukuthi vele nangilomumfu lo sebenza lo msebenzi efisa ukusebenza whether ikini ini Itolo naba interactor naleto tinkampani leto lama representatives aleto tinkampani.
Oh yes, the kids were very much excited bajabule kakhulu about this and bonakale vele banemdlandla lomkhulu kakhulu lokubaniketa lezil yokuthi babuyele classini bayofunda after seba interact nalama companies. Okay, well besinema institutions akangwane, the universities, the colleges, phinde futhi sinema companies la local now akangwane, and bese futhi kwesithathu besinema institutions ema universities ase South Africa. Yes, so the abantwana they were very much excited to meet all those sectors.
Okay, so as an educator yourself, mhlambe lofundisa wona vele as a career guidance teacher, ingabe na usakhulumisana nosoxoxisana nabo abafundi bakho bathini bayabona vele mhlambe lobuncoko ukuthi bayende le research ngale career labafuna ukuyilandzela kuba khona vele lomdlandla nje ezosaxoxisana nabo ukuthi hayi mina vele ngifuna ukuba ngudokotela, mina ngifuna ukuba yipilot, mina ngifuna ukuba ngummeli, ngifuna ukuba nginaki. Do they actually understand ukuthi vele kumele bayende le research kodwa batakhona ukuthi vele batawujabula kulo msebenzi abafuna kwenda?
Yes, bantwana as they do their own research kuyabavula umcondo lokho. Phindze futhi labanye abantwana batikhanza sebashintsha lokhu labacabanga ukuthi befisa kubangiko. Okay, lokunye siyasikwende senda i-job shadowing lapho khona labantwana siba exposure to the real life, to the real job outside. So sendele ukuthi babe nale feel. So labanye nasuka kuleyo ma exercise lawo baba excited and baba keen to even put more of their effort kuleto tifundo. Yes, labanye ke vele baba na ukuthi hayi ngazuthi lokulenko ucabanga noma lokulenko ufisako ngazuthi akusiko after they've had that taste of that job. So siva ngazuthi kuba sidakabili labantwana because kuthi into lebhlungu sisike ukuthi wende i-career ungene career lobocabanga ukuthi ikahle lobocabanga ukuthi it's your passion uyayithanda but nasofika kuyo discover ukuthi this is not me. Akusim nje lokho. So sizama ukuthi abantwana athi aya lapha kule career yakhe abe clear ukuthi this is what I want.
Yeah. All right. Because it's bakunisile itolo, during the expo, let's just take a look at this video. But ichazela ukuthi vele le career expo ibasita kangakanani.
Okay.
Ngathi ukuthi nangiqedza sephuma results ngathi ukuthi ngiphuma ngibhekaphi. Apply kanjani? Ngathi ngikunenge kakhulu lokufunda because I'm doing sciences and they say ngalendlela laba expecting ngayo ema credit ngalendlela le performance. Though about English it's hard for me, but I can work hard to succeed because I still have a chance to work on English.
Ingisite ukuthi ngadi ema-universities lakhona ngaphandle kwala kaNgwane. Ngifundzene ukuthi ngafika kanjani career experience namhlanje ngibona ngathi ingivete ivedele ama-opportunities amaningi ukuthi ngikhone nekwadi ema-universities la-overseas ngikhone kwadi ngawo ngikhone kuthola information yabo yangisita nokuthi ngadi ukuthi each and every university is expected ukuthi kube ngaphi ama-credits
ngeke ukuthi ngikhone kubona into leti ngisite ukuthi ngikhone kubona into leti iningi lehlukene nje ukuthi uma ngiphuma kule sikole engifundza kiso manje ngakhona noma usinohamba ngo-apply South Africa sengiyakhona kubona ukuthi kodwa udinga ukuthi ngente bo-form 6 akufana njena la kithi kunemehluko.
Career expo ingisite kakhulu lwatile ngilidzinako njengoba nje sihlala endzaweni engathi lenda singasemakhayeni siye sisinoma ngase sisebentile singadloku sisidawenda njalo nalamandla lesiwafaka kwasadlo ukuthi kudzingeka kube ngilanganani namhla sisidakile ngoba sesize savuleka tingcono ukuthi sesiyathi kusinasiphuma sidawubheka kubo.
Most universities here linked to other ones that didn't even come, so we are more exposed to other opportunities.
You can study abroad in other countries. Ngabe ufuna futhi kunema-career lamaningi ongangena kiwo like ma-economics, mathematics, nema-arts kuningi. Okay, ngifundze okuningi kakhulu ukuthi like kunema-careers lahlukile, some of them awadzingi ukuthi nje ucredite lokuningi noma ungacredita kancane nje uthole ama-credit amancane thola kuya e-university.
Ngisite ukuthi ngibe encourage kuma-subjects ami ngibone ukuthi nginga-achieve kanjani ukuze ngifike la ngifuna kuya khona ngade nalama-university ngifuna kuya kiwo ukuthi ngimaphi.
Mina sengikhulumela nje bengingazi ukuthi uma ngifundelani kahle ever since ngitile career day sengiyaphinda ukuthi uma ngiphuma la uma ngihlelekela ngikhona ngisanalana lapha ngisitangele kakhulu.
Alright, ngibuke abafundi lapho labo baveta ama-feelings abo mayelana ne-Career Expo. So nje sikhulumisana naye Mr. Raphael Masuku losuka St Michael's lo ngu-career guidance teacher. Bachaza abafundi ukuthi vele basithe kakhulu le expo, labanye bayaveta nokuthi bebangadinga ukuthi bangakhona nokufundzela ngaphandle kwakuleli ma-university langaphandle kwakuleli. Sisateka nje leyo nje Mr. Masuku. Vele what is the feeling of ama-learners akho mhlambe nosokhulumisana nabo nokuyofundzela ngisho kwatilwandle noma outside the country vele?
All right, bafundi, they are so much willing. Okay, yes, labanye baye bathathwe nje ukuthi nje ngifuna kufunza outside the country. Ukhanze ukuthi now uthi ambuta uyasondzela kuye, what is it exactly that you want to study outside there? Ukhanze ukuthi le course la ifuna kolomntwana is actually offered nakhona la kithi Eswatini. So le siku encourage because kwekucala nje siswami lokwenta ukuthi sifunela ama institutions angephandle kwelive. Yes, we do appreciate we have our own, but liqiniso lithi angeke bonke labantwana asengibekise nje lo nyaka abafundi laba form 5 there are more than 16,000. Ngeke bonke bangene e-UNESCO, ngeke bonke bangene eSANU. So that is why we have this wide range. Sithi bantwana laba tholile thuba lokungena kuma institutions abangane, yes kuhle siyabajabulela, but labanye aba explore baphumele nangephandle because lo umntwana sifuna ukubona umntwana weLeswati athuthuka, sifisa ukubona umntwana weLeswati afunza afika kuleli phupho lafisa kufika kilo. So siyasibagayideka labantwana ukuthi before ukhethe noma ukhethe leyo institutions lengephandle kwelive la ngane kunetinto efuna uti-check kuko. Kwekucala kufuna ucheck lokuthi is it authentic, because semaningi lama scam ema institutions ngeke sikubalekele lokho. So siyabagayida ke nebantwana lapho ukuthi abahlole before ba apply, aba-check ukuthi le institution ingiyo invele, is it recognized, is it accredited, ingabe vele iyabalwa njengema institution lafanele ukuthi anikete umntwana tifundo thide. So ke manenge vele la ngasiko kahle, so siyabasita ke abantwana ukuthi bacaphele lapho, otherwise umntwana vele uyafisa kufunza khashani, uyafisa kuhamba ayofunza overseas, uyafisa kufunza even in South African universities, but lokumcoka ukuthi sada ukuthi ufuna kwenta ini, is it not offered kangwane. Nabe kuya offerishwa kangwane vele asikho sizathu esikhulu sokuthi angaze afise kuhamba. Otherwise sizama nje lokho ukuthi sibafake kuma institutions a local, phinde futhi siba expose kuma institutions mhlambe la outside the country. Maybe just to mention a few, besinaye UNESCO, besinaye kunama institutions akangwane, besinaye UNESCO, besinaye BSA, besinaye Good Shepherd, ama institutions lebesinayo. Yes, lamanye beswa invited, but because of some reasons awakakhona kuphumelela. Then South Africa besinabo bo UJ, University of Johannesburg, bo UKZN, University of Pretoria, Tswana University, University of Zululand, Mpumalanga, Northwest. So they really responded positive to our invitation. So nje sithi nje bantwana aba akungafana nathi thina nasikhula besathi ukuthi usuka la esikoleni la primary uya kule high school na usuka la ufuna ufune khona la kangwane, but ngalokuthi tikhathi tiyashintsha. So we want to be relevant to this time. So sifisa ukuthi bantwana ababe exposed as much as possible to institutions la khona bangathola khona a higher education.
So mnye mfunzi la ukhuluma ukuthi vele i-opportunity lenkulu lena because yena ufunza esikoleni lesingathi mhlambe sisemakhaya. Ingabe vele mhlambe because vele sinibona vele niwa hosta la amadolobheni, tikoleni la amadolobheni lama expos. Ingabe vele mhlawumbe nikubuketa ukuthi vele kuhle kwente kanjene kuboshiselweni niyelibonjene niyele ngaphandle le khashane la khona nabafundi etikoleni semakhaya nabo balitfole lethuba ukuthi bawabone lama careers, batibone tinkapani ukuthi nabo bakhona kuthatha inqumo letifanele.
Yes, ngiyabonga my sister, ngicabanga ukuthi lapho ke we are still working on it because akusiyo into leneminyaka leminingi icalile. So sisazama lokuthi cishe kuto tonke tigodzi noma kuto tonke tindzawo telive la kangwane bantwana bakhona kuba ne-access, because kuliqiniso vele ukuthi nabe itawendiwa la kamanzini edorobheni kuphela utakwanza ukuthi tikhola le khashane engxenye for some reason abakhona ukufinyelela. So sisetama kwekuthi siyehlise vele ifike cishe kuto tonke tindzawo la khona abantwana batawukhona kuba khona. Njengoba ngikhuluma nje namhla itabe ila St. Mark's eMbabane, so we have invited schools around Mbabane ukuthi abasonzele, and nakusasa iyachubeka itabe ise Elbonjeni e-UTech nakhona sithi tikole leti ngale ngase UTech leti ngale Elbonjeni atisonzele bantwana basitakale. Asikakhoni ke kuyenda eshiselweni, but hopefully next year sitawukhona nakhona ukuthi eshiselweni nakhona tikole around Shiselweni tikhona ukusitakala nakhona, bangaze ba travel all the way from Shiselweni to Manzini ngani besingakhona ukuthi bakwende khona ngale ngaseshiselweni.
Ngcono ke kuva lokho ke mesamasuku ukhulume nendzaba uthintilana indzaba lemcoka nayo lenye lesesiyibona seyendeka nje kulamalanga indzaba ye job shadowing, lokuthi bafundisi abathole lelithuba ukuthi balandzele lo emvloyo ngibekise nje la emsebentini bekhona umfundzi lo landzela umuntu losebentaka la abone lokuthi usebenta kanjani nomsebenzi la wendako. Ingabe vele mhlambe nako lokho kubasita kanganani bafundzi nasebabuye esikolweni kubathini vele nje kuba bayakhuluma bathini nje after lo msebenzi lo labawendile khona.
Okay, i-job shadowing mhlambe kuyichaza kafishane nje ngesikhathi sithi umfundzi asesesikolweni maybe kwa form 4 noma form 5 depending ukuthi as a school si decide ukuthatha iphi i-group. Ngesikhathi umfundzi atawuhamba ayo practice njengoba kube kusile nje ukuthi mhlambe ede la Eswatini TV atokwenda lemisebenzi practical. So umfundzi ke kuyamsita lokho kakhulu because le dream career yakhe nasayiphethe ngetandla wayitaster nasabuya tincwadi nasabuya esikolweni is very much motivated kakhulu khanza ukuthi as bothishela so ba mncane umsebenzi kakhulu wekumotivate umntwana, because kuze ukuthi umntwana aphase kuqala yena lo mntwana abe self motivated, bakubita nge-intrinsic motivation, abe motivated yena lo mntwana abone lesizathu sekuthi vele ngifundzela nakho. So i-job shadowing ngifike yasita lapho ukuthi labantwana nababuya le emisebentini babuya banalomdlandla wokufundza, babuya sebavele sebatimisele seba all out for that subject or for those subject combination that abasita ukuthi ba-achieve lo msebenzi labafuna kuwenda nasebacede isikolo. Phindze futhi on the other hand labanye abantwana babuya sebanemcondo loshintshile. Asengibekise nje siyamthatha umntwana simixa in one of the hospitals zakahambe ayokwenda khona i-job shadowing yakhe. Enxe yomntwana abe nokuthi nje ngifisa kuba ngudokotela noma ngifisa kuba nginesi. So nasafika lo mntwana lapha asabona the real situation, the real duty of a doctor, of a nurse. Ukhanza ukuthi so uba nako kushintsha umcondo lomunye uthi yini ngazothi ngikhone. So nasabuya ke asabuye eclassini ahlala phansi. So uyakhona ke manje ukuthi re-align aphindze futhi acabange ukuthi okay ngoba sengibonile ukuthi kwendekani kahle na ngudokotela umsebenzi wakhona uhamba la ukwazi ukushintsha le career option yakho lo mntwana, so uyaphindze futhi so yati refocus to another career. So ibasita lapho basically labantwana because siyesaba kubhlungu siswami ukuthi umuntu ende i-career ngekuthi mhlambe uyibone yendwa ngilabanye nasafika yena kuyo ukhanda ukuthi utati sola for the rest of his or her life eve nje kahle ukuthi ingazuthi ngilahlekile. So ukhanda ukuthi kuba netinkinga leti khona kulo msebenzi lo noma mhlambe between lo mcashi nalesi sebenzi nakabe sisebenzi sitawenda umsebenzi lesingawuthandi. So sithi labantwana baphuma nje esikoleni abaphume vele basho ukuthi le career la ikhethile umntwana vele ngilayithandzako ngilane passion ngayo. Yes.
So labanye abafunzi ukuhlukile babe masuku labanye batawa ngenela ama career expos babende labo job shadowing but babe solo ba undecisive nakuphela umnyaka baze bathatha isinqumo sekuthi mhlambe batawuthatha i-gap year babe basa decide ukuthi bafuna ukuyofundzela ini kahle enyuvesi. Ingabe nje zibothishela be career guidance kuvame kuba yini advice yabo bafunzi laba njengalapha labafuna ukuthatha ama gap year?
Okay, ngiyabonga sis. Okay, sithi ema result emfundzi locede isikole form 5 noma form 6 noma whatever level ayakhuluma. So I usually tell them ukuthi respond according to what your results are telling you. Buka lama results ukuthi athini bese wenda lokho la athi wenda. Kokuqala ama-results angasho ukuthi nawuceda form 5 apply straight to any institution. Angasho ama-results ukuthi okay lungisa mhlambe nathi ifundo etimbili noma nasi lesisodwa kuzokhona uku-apply the following year. Angasho futhi ama-results ukuthi restarter ngeke sikubalekele lokho kuyendeka vele. So kungu-3 lokuvama ku-communicate ngama-results: apply, restart or upgrade. Good lethi umntwana akathathe i-gap year, because you can take a gap year but isikhathi siyahamba. This is your time now sesesikolweni usemncane usengumfundi usafunza. Make use of that time, ungathathi i-gap year, because i-gap year itakudelay akuhamba lesikhathi, and as lesikhathi sichubeka the competition is becoming stiffer and stiffer kuyenyukela. So utawuhamba niyohlala ekhaya because now form 5 wathatha i-gap year futhi uzohlala ekhaya bese nasowubuya sotofunda nanombalo ka form 3 lo wamshiya aka form 3 because ube na gap year wena. So nase ufika kulabantwana labo ukhanza ukuthi labantwana labo the competition yabo seyingedudlwana kule yakho already, so vele soya suffocate already, so vele so unale pressure yokuthi ufunza ukuqala sofunda nabantwana abancane kunawe kwakona lokho nje kuyi-pressure as umfundi. Kwesibili nale competition seyenyukile, so si-encourage ke bafunzi ukuthi abangahlali emakhaya kude i-gap year. Funza ubuke ama-results akho ukuthi athini, ama-results athi buyele esikoleni buyela, ama-results athi apply. Ingani umntwana akaphasile akayithathi i-gap year? Then you ask yourself, what is the purpose of the gap year kahle kahle? So khanze ukuthi naphase kahle vele nje apply kube lula, but mhlawumbe angahambi kahle so vangazo ukuthi angihlala ekhaya, but siva ngazo ukuthi ke lokho akusiko lokahle. It's not a good decision for a child.
Okay, so kokugcina nje so namhla expo iqhubekela la sonjeni sakaHho eSt Marks iqala ngabansikhathini maphi ama-sectors mhlambe abantu abakhona namuhla?
St Marks iqala nga 8:30 nakhona. And we expect ukuthi kucishe kufana nalokho bekukhona itolo, sibheke ukuthi ibe khona ema-universities akangwane, abe khona ama-colleges akangwane, abe khona ama-universities ase-South Africa, tibe khona netinkampani. Phindze futhi okay lokunye mhlawumbe ngushiye ngemuva, we have the likes of US Embassy. Yebo, so leto tinkampani leto tiphindze futhi basite bantwana ukuthi mhlawumbe nakaphase noma nakaphase kanje bangam-assista kuma-scholarships. So kuyabasita kakhulu bantwana labo. That is why nabo besiba-invitile nje itolo bebakhona bonke bo-Eswatini Bank nabo, those are potential sponsors. They assist nabo ngesigaba sabo laba assista ngaso bantwana. So nje we expect to see all the companies that were there itolo, schools, institutions inside the country, institutions outside the country.
Thanks so much. Sibonga kakhulu Mr. Masoko. So vele ke iyaqhubeka career expo lomuhla eSt Marks la eMbabane, iphindze iqhubekele naselubonjeni lapho khona kutawusitakala abafundi labasesifundzeni labaselubonjeni. Bese ke break nasibuya sitovala hlelo nasifisa.
Kude lesinye isikhathi ngaphandle kwalesi
aba-research bafunze.
Being risky means ukuthi nalokuwa kwayo kulula.
Nathi kufuna sente ukukhicita lokhu sekungeni.
Ujala masada mahle kunathi lesa.
Sabatandi ukuthi njengalokho sivile sive sithi khulumeni.
It's 2 minutes before 8 o'clock. We've come to the end of our show today. Sibonga kakhulu ukuthi nibe nathi. Sithemba ukuthi kunemfuthi nale nikufundile. Sifisa bayasolagcizelela ukuthi autism is not a disease but it is a condition, simo. So bamfula bane autism baphila nesimo se-autism bedesifo simo abaguli banesimo nje. So we are still celebrating and commemorating Autism Awareness Month. So yes, go ahead and spread that information.
And if you do have autistic people around you, or you do know of autistic people around you, make sure ukuthi kuba bantu leni ba integrate with care amongst the environments that you are in. They may react differently to certain conditions. I think the occupational therapist even made an example. Could see, for instance, in our studio we have bright lights all over. For them, they might react differently to this, and yet when they are seated there normally. So agamele bese nathi sesiphakamise emashiya sesiyababandlulula funa nje kube yindvo lesikhona ukudila nayo leyo ke ngetindlela labas-advisor ngayo. If you don't know ukuthi bas-advisor bathini and you have just tuned into Kusile Breakfast Show, you can go on YouTube and rewind this episode to that particular segment, and you can learn quite a lot. Ekuthenini, how do we integrate autistic people in our societies? Outside of that, we've come to the end of our program today, but we'll be back on screen at 2 p.m. for Business Watch. Make sure you do tune in to that as well. Thank you for staying with us today. Have a good day.